Today we're talking about an issue that is as serious as it gets. Training with a purpose, especially when it comes to survival or a doomsday type situation.
You're gonna have to get outside of your bedroom, outside of a flat range, and get somewhere where you can start to actually practice doing some of the things that you've envisioned in your mind while you are practicing on the flat range. And that probably involves moving. It might involve moving with a buddy of yours or multiple friends of yours that are trying to get from point A to point B. It might involve moving and shooting around cover. It might involve a lot of things that are gonna require you to get outside somewhere into the wilderness and do some of the stuff that you've only thought about before.
And the first key to all of this is situational awareness. Whether you're in a urban wasteland or deep in the woods like we are here, you need to know your surroundings. You need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be constantly scanning through the woods for potential threats, for potential even people that may be able to help you. But we always need to know our surroundings and be able to move through those with confidence and knowledge.
When it comes time to start moving around out here and getting from point A to point B, it's not all about just getting to that place. When we talk about situational awareness, you have to assume that there's people out there that are trying to do bad things to you. And in a doomsday situation or a natural disaster, you are a target, whether you think you are or not. So you have to assume that there's always somebody out there trying to get you. It's not all about what your plan is, what your mission is, but you got to think, how do I protect myself from everybody that wants my stuff, from people that are trying to get me for what they need for themselves. And so you are constantly not only thinking about how to get to that place safely, but thinking about who else is out there trying to come get me.
Let's move that way.
Down there, that path, and in a normal situation, this would be an ideal place to go, but
this is not a normal situation. This is a situation in your life when people are trying to come and get you and get your stuff, and you're trying to get to loved ones, to family, to other resources that you've got in another place. You don't have a vehicle and you're on foot. So what we need to do is stay off the beaten path. That's why you don't walk down the middle of an interstate. You don't walk down the sidewalk of a road trying to get somewhere, because you're broadcasting to everybody where you are, the supplies you have on you, and also they might try to follow you to where your stuff is at. So at this point, it's time to get off the beaten path and stay as covert as possible. So if you come with me, you take that and I'll get this over here.
as you can see, this is a much rougher trail. This is not ideal for comfort as far as moving through a difficult area, but it is better than being on an open road where people can pick you off and take your stuff very easily. This is much more covert. There's some trails back here, but they're not, obviously, they haven't been walked on very recently. So we are in a better situation for being able to move covertly through this terrain.
And hopefully you're in a better situation physically to be able to handle something like this. If you have to walk 30 miles, 50 miles to get home because no vehicles work anymore and the interstates are jacked up and really bad things are happening, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna take a long time. It's why it's important to communicate with your family ahead of time. Listen, if I'm 8 hours away at a training class and everything goes really bad, I'm probably gonna have to walk home. Let them know that might take you 30 days or 2 weeks or whatever the case is, because that's what it's gonna take. It's gonna be slow, it's gonna be very time consuming, very physically demanding, but you need to be ready for it. Your family needs to be aware of your plans in advance, and then be smart about it. This is the biggest game of hide and seek you could ever play in your life, so you have to do it right. You can't take chances. You can't just hope that things will work out. You have to make them work out.
So what does it look like to train with your equipment? Well, it looks a lot like getting out and doing something. Getting out and testing out your equipment. You know, we look at this stuff on the internet, we think it's cool, we watch a video here and there, and we're like, oh, that looks like a really cool bag or a really cool pouch. We never test it. And that's a big fatal flaw, because when the stuff actually hits the fan, you don't have time to test it out. You don't have time to see whether it's failed or not. And that's a big thing that all of us should do. It's a really, really important step. Don't just buy your equipment, test it out.
You're gonna have to get outside and actually what we call prove up your gear and your tactics to some extent. So in the law enforcement world, when I was doing drug unit stuff, we have to prove up anybody that was an informant, a snitch, whatever you want to call it, to find out if what they were telling us was true, if it was legit or not. Now, we did that several different ways. We would follow them around, have them make phone calls to drug dealers, and try and verify the information they were giving us first. When it comes to your gear, you also have to prove it up. You have to actually get it out of your living room onto a range and go use that stuff. You don't want optics flying off the first day you shoot it. You want to make sure your mags work with the ammo you have. You want to make sure your kit, your duty belt, all that stuff isn't falling apart and leaving a yard sale behind you as you walk, run through the woods, whatever it is. So it is critical. And I'm not saying you're going to have the same gear setup forever. It is going to change, but when you do get brand new gear or you're changing a setup, you need to test that stuff out, and you're just gonna have to get out somewhere. You're gonna have to find a nice patch of outdoors somewhere besides your 10 by 10 backyard to get this stuff and give it a whirl. So that's gotta be part of your journey of this whole firearms training lifestyle. Is in the beginning, it might be dry fire in your bedroom. It might be going to an indoor range. But at some point, you're gonna have to get to an outdoor range. You're gonna have to get to a big spot of outdoors to test your equipment, run around with it, test its long range capabilities, and see if this stuff is really working for you beyond just what the YouTubes said. So get out here and start proving it up.
Hold on, man, it's getting dark. We need to figure out what we're gonna do. I don't have any night vision, so we're gonna have to figure this out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure this out too. So what's really important is to know the capabilities of all your equipment. And we see a lot of people, it's really cool and Gucci to get some night vision out there and spend a ton of money on night vision. I'm not saying don't buy it, but think about your situation, the capabilities, where you might need it, and where you're gonna be heading. Here's some things you need to think about that most people don't think about. Night vision is a advanced piece of technology that requires batteries, that requires other kit, like a helmet probably. So it's labor intensive to make sure this stuff is working all the time. In my law enforcement experience, we did a lot of surveillance at nighttime on a lot of bad guys. Rarely did we actually need night vision. Even on SWAT call-outs, hostage rescue, we didn't need night vision. It was very rare moments and situations and targets that we needed that stuff. So you gotta think about it. Is it worth it for me to lug that stuff around all day in the daylight just so I might need it at nighttime? So if you don't have night vision, or you've decided I'm gonna wait on that piece of kit, nighttime is the time for us to shine, because daytime is a very dangerous time to be moving around. I would try to be moving at nighttime as much as possible. There's usually moonlight, ambient light. You're probably not so far out in the boonies that you can't see at all. And even if you are using a little bit of light from a handheld, it's not necessarily going to give you away too much. So try to move at night if at all possible. And at nighttime, move slowly. Movement is the #1 thing that somebody else is going to pick up on. So if you can control the speed of your movement at nighttime, even without night vision, you're probably going to be in a very good shape.
All right, so here we are, and the final part of this is probably, you need to know how to use your firearm. You need to know how to train with it. And we do talk about how you shouldn't stay on a flat range. Really flat range, you learn techniques, you learn fundamentals, and then you put them to the test out in kind of more real world environments. But I think there are a lot of benefits to flat range training. You learn your fundamentals, you learn the things that are important, and
you get to actually test and evaluate your performance. You know, we can go out and do a lot of stuff out in the woods and run around. It's all kind of ambiguous though. We really don't know exactly what our performance level is. Like, how good are you hiding in the woods so nobody can see you? Like, if it's just you out there, you don't really know. When you come back to the flat range, you get to put a piece of paper on the target backer and stand at 7 yards and shoot a target and count how many bullet holes are on the target. And so you get an actual finite performance evaluation of how you're doing. So it's a huge benefit. You need to know what your standard is. Like, what do I need to be performing at? What level is good enough for me and the gun I'm shooting? So that's the big benefit of the paper range. You also get to obviously test the fundamentals. There needs to be a progression of your training from, I'm just gonna work on some different stances and make sure my grip is good, make sure my trigger control is good, follow through on the trigger, my sight alignment, all the basic stuff can happen right here. So that's primarily with the handgun. And when it comes to the rifles we've been running around with, you need to become very familiar with that system. And I mean system because you've got a gun, you've got optics, you've got different things working in concert together. You had better be very good at zeroing a rifle. Of all the classes we've done here at Tombstone Gun Range in the last 11 years, especially rifle classes, almost nobody shows up here with a truly zeroed rifle, except maybe our cameraman here. But it's something you need to take a deep dive into. You need to get into the science of zeroing a rifle, whatever yours is, and get very good, very comfortable. So if you do have to change optics, change guns even, you're gonna be very familiar. If you have to pick up a gun on a side road somewhere and figure out what to do with this thing, that skill alone might save your life. So get very familiar with that, with the rifle, get very familiar with your gun, how it works, how to take it apart, and be professional with that. That can happen right here on the flat range.
Okay, so one of the things that we can take away from this is the training is key. Getting familiar with your surroundings and understanding your limitations, your performance, and what really matters when it comes to equipment. You can only do that by actually performing and actually using your equipment. So the most important thing is that you get out on the range, you get out in the woods, you train, you see how your equipment works, you fix the things that need to be fixed, because when doomsday comes, or when a natural disaster comes, and it's time to actually put those skills to the test, you may be lacking if you don't train now.
One last little thing I'd like to encourage everybody who's just getting into the training world. Don't be afraid to get out there and run around a little bit. Go for a jog, think about a workout program, think about a little bit about physical fitness. Of the thousands of people we've had in our classes, I can't count how many times somebody showed up for a class. They've got the Gucci'd out gun, they've got $5,000 worth of gear, and we have them run a course of fire where we have the student run 20 yards. Next thing you know, somebody's pulled a hamstring, somebody's blown out an Achilles tendon, something crazy is going on because, yeah, they spent a lot of time and money and effort on the gun stuff and the gear, which is great, but this whole thing is a system, and your physical fitness is part of that. I'm not saying you have to go join a gym and go work out 5 times a day, but you have to understand that being outside with your gear is taxing on your system. It was 98 degrees in Southern Illinois here today. Some people, it's just tough standing in one place outside in the sun. So push yourself a little bit when it comes to that. It's part of your survival program. And it's not just for you, it's for your family. It's the other people in your life that you're doing this for. So take that into consideration.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like this content. We've got a lot more coming your way. Check out our website, righteoussavages.com, for our training classes. We will see you guys soon. Have a good one.
What he said. Thanks for watching.